Now, is the revised language policy of Unisa seeking to phase out Afrikaans as a language of teaching and learning unconstitutional? The Apex Court will rule on that this very morning. Unisa wants to phase out courses taught in Afrikaans while enhancing the status of indigenous African languages. Historian Professor Pitika Ntuli joins us now to discuss this even further. Prof, thank you for your time. Always a pleasure talking to you. I was just saying to you offline that it's been a while since I last spoke to you. But let's talk about this. I mean, do you think the phasing out of Afrikaans at Unisa is unconstitutional?
No, it is not unconstitutional. It is long overdue. While we accept that Afrikaans is an African language, but it's a language that is was surviving on steroids, as Professor Maluleka had said. It had been favored at the expense of all the other languages. It is time, at least for us, to look at our indigenous languages and give them the dignity and the power that they require, both in law, in education, and in practically every sphere of our own society.
You say it's time, Prof, to prioritize indigenous languages, but I beg to question, why did it take this long? I mean, it's, almost over 27 years of our democracy, and we're still not seeing enough of, other African languages being prioritized in institutions of higher learning. I mean,
it's just simply that everything that we actually do is Western-based. Our education system is Western-based. It shuts out the majority of the people. So we should actually be learning, from Afrikaans itself. When they developed the language, they translated their economics, their history, their philosophy, their mathematics, everything into that language in order to let ordinary Afrikaner people, even in the villages, can contribute to the homework of their children or their grandchildren, whereas on our own side of the black people, that is not actually being done. So any nation that does not prioritize its language is still a captured nation. It's a mentally enslaved kind of a system that we do not want that sled to be thrown actually at us. We need to change how we deal with our languages.
Yeah, so you're saying it goes back to the debate around decolonizing our education system.
Decolonizing not just only our education system, decolonizing our own very being. We must also remember that in 1976, it was also the issue of Afrikaans that had led to the massacre of many of our youth, and forcing a lot of them to go and spend their lives in exile. So it is very important that we need to revise how we look at it. We have got pencil. We've got a number of Chapter 9 institutions that are brilliant, that makes our constitution good. But do we put in the resources that are very required for those? Do we deploy correct people who have got an understanding, who have studied the issues that we are asking them to do? We are not. Therefore, we need to get the government to get a team of experts, of people to look at and come up with a solution towards this issue that is going to cause us a lot of problems if we don't deal with it.
Yeah, Professor, I have to let you go in a few seconds. Please answer this briefly due to time. I'm seeing a response here by AfriForum saying that, this should not be a racial issue. It is not a racial issue, and it seems that they're alluding to Unisa making this a racial issue. What's your response? Briefly, please.
No, definitely it's not a racial issue. It's not a racial issue. It's a very practical issue of millions of people denied their own languages and not been given anything. Anybody who sees it as racial really needs to rethink what race and racism is all about.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Prof. A pleasure talking to you, Professor Pitika Ntuli, talking about this expected ruling by the, of course, courts today on whether they should, Unisa, remove Afrikaans as a medium of teaching and learning in the institution.